Okay, great. Well, sorry for the late start here, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Hope everyone can see a page that has two menu items, dashboard and visualizer with the California Endowment logo in the top left corner. If anyone can't see that, will you let us know? You can put something up on the chat window if you cannot see this. So I don't see anything yet, but I'll wait for a bit, but I'll get started regardless. Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for being available today. We're going to talk about the new tools in GivingData here for managing payment records for pre-pipeline grants. So again, these are not grants that are yet approved. These are very kind of early stage thinking. Is a new set of tools for managing grants in this pre-pipeline stage, as well as now the payment schedules for those grants. So just a little bit more context, and Dan or anyone else, please feel free to chime in if I'm glossing over anything. But this is the payments dashboard, so showing all of the scheduled payments or projected payments for the current fiscal year, 2014, which you can see up here in the top left. And what we're going to talk about today is this very first stage of grants in the grant approval process. So just to make sure we have a common vocabulary here, the pre-pipeline grant records are not records that you will find anywhere in GIFs. They are exclusively managed here in the dashboard in GivingData. Below that, you'll see pending, and these are grants that are in a pending stage in GIFs, which means they are not yet approved. This is where you'll see data in Reviewer Connect as well. We don't really surface the Reviewer Connect stages, but anything pending you would find in the pending stage in GIFs, and also in a Reviewer Connect stage as well. From there, contingent, scheduled, and paid are the contingent, scheduled, and paid payments that again are scheduled in GIFs. These are for approved grants. So anything here with the white background as opposed to this very light blue, I don't know if you can see that, these would be approved grants, and these are contingent, scheduled, or paid payments in GIFs. So again, what we're really talking about today is pre-pipeline. Now we have a new set of tools for managing all of the grants that are in a pre-pipeline stage. And previously, we talked about these grants where we were entering grants to say, okay, I'm thinking about making a grant here. I don't yet, not ready to be in a pending stage in GIFs, but I want to put that record into the dashboard and be able to do some scenario planning. And previously, we were using a calculation that was projecting the payments based on the term of the grant and the amount of the grant. So it was a projection, but not perhaps the most accurate one, because it wasn't an explicit payment schedule. It was one that was just calculated or really inferred from the recommended amount and the term. So this is an attempt to be more specific about the payment schedules and giving you all the tools that you need to actually enter and manage those payment projections with very specific payment dates and amounts, so that you can see when you're evaluating your own budget for a given fiscal year, how those payments might impact your budget if that grant moves forward and becomes approved ultimately. So the whole purpose here is to provide you with richer tools for managing the data, so that you can both manage your own pipeline within your program, as well as make this data available for others to see, finance folks, executive team, whoever else might be looking at this, to see how those pre-pipeline grants might impact the current year's budget. So let me just pause for a second here, and before we kind of dive into the demo, any questions or additional thoughts folks have before we go on? All right, good. So I'm going to take you through the process of entering a new pre-pipeline grant and then adding a payment schedule to that grant. I should say grant record. It's not a grant because it's not approved. And then being able to see that grant record as well as the payment schedule in the dashboard. So in GivingData, one thing, if you ever sort of need to get somewhere directly, the best place to really go is up to the main navigation here. And our world, we're primarily concerned right now with what's under this dashboard menu. And even more specifically, really under the payments menu under the dashboard. So this is where we'll view the data. Now, all the way down at the bottom here is where we have the tools for viewing and managing specifically the pre-pipeline grant records. And here we can manage the pre-pipeline grants as well as the payments. So I'm already here, but I'll just click again to see. This is now the list of pre-pipeline grants. So I got here again by going up to the dashboard menu and then all the way down here to pre-pipeline. Now you can go directly to add new from here if you like, or from the existing list of pre-pipeline requests, you can also add a new record from here as well. Now there's 17 records here. We're only viewing 10 right now. You can select to view all or as little as 5 at one time if you like, but we'll go ahead and view them all. So these are all of the pre-pipeline requests that are already in the system. So I'm going to add a new one and simply go to the Add New button, and here we will enter some very just basic preliminary information about the grant. So we'll just call this Alf's new project, and we will start to type the organization name, and this will do a lookup against the organization table that's in GIFs. So any existing grantees that you have in the system will already appear here, so you can select from that list, or you can enter a new organization name. Now that won't go into GIFs, but it will be available here in the pre-pipeline tool. And if you don't know who you might be making the grant to, what we recommend is that you type in unknown. So you don't have to assign it to a specific organization. If you don't know, you can simply just type in unknown. But I'm going to go ahead and choose an existing grantee. This is a little bit of a change here. Before we had just the requested amount was what you entered, but we actually changed this now and it's recommended amount. So recommended amount made more sense in most cases, in that we want to calculate based on what the recommended amount is from the program teams. So this is the amount that will be the one that any approval amounts are sort of calculated off of, and that's why we've made this field required. So recommended amount is a required field. You can go ahead and enter a requested amount if there is one. It's not really used for any kind of calculation, but if you want to track that amount, if you have it, you can enter it here. The anticipated approval date, so this is the date you anticipate this grant might be approved. So we'll go ahead and just put it out in the future here, sometime October 18th. The term, this is could be whatever your term it might be. I'll put 24 months. Program staff, this also does a lookup against the staff data that's already in GIFs. So you can select from an existing staff person or program person in most cases. And then the project description goes in here, and this can be whatever you'd like to put in for here. This could be a simple paragraph, sentence, whatever for your own descriptive purposes. Okay, so that's the preliminary data with one key exception so far, and this is the fund and program area. So this is where we start to define what program area, and by extension then, what budget this grant would be drawing from if it's awarded. So to do this, you click here to select, and you can select up to 10 fund and program area codes. That is, you can allocate that grant across up to 10 budgets. I don't know if in practice that will happen, but the capability to do it is here. So you will simply select from the list of program areas here, fund and program areas that is, and this contains the whole list of codes available. And simply, this is of course probably not going to be accurate, but I will select a few here. So let's just say this relates to prevention, and it's going to be 50% from that budget. And then I can go and select, again, up to 10 total. So I'll go back to the drop-down list here and select another budget, another code budget area here, another program area. And I'll go ahead and do 50% here as well. So this is a grant that would be split half and half, 50% prevention, 50% BMOC HCOM South. Again, I don't know if that's a likely scenario, but this shows you how you can allocate across multiple programs. Simply hit done here, and we're back to the screen where we are entering information about this grant record. And you can see your fund and program area codes have been added here, 50% to each. Okay, so now we reviewed this a couple weeks back when we had an earlier training. I just wanted to review that again. Nothing's changed here with the exception of the recommended amount has changed. But fundamentally what we're doing here is we're just adding a grant record. It's not going into gifts, it's just going into the dashboard as a pre-pipeline grant record. Okay, so we've added the grant record. We simply hit. Sorry,
Al. Can I just pause for a second on this point? Being asked this question a lot recently. That cost sharing that you just showed, prevention 50%, BMOC 50%. Just want folks to know and understand that the way the system works, that cost sharing is established at the time that the award is created in gifts. I know we're just talking pre-pipeline here, but this same logic it really just mirrors what happens in gifts. And the clarification point here is that cost sharing, once that grant is created with that specific cost sharing instruction, that really becomes the structure for that award, and it lives with that award for the life of the grant. We can't later on in the life of the grant change that cost sharing. So you really can't have a situation where one payment might be split one way one year and then handled a different way next year. That decision really has to be made at the time the grant is created, and then just know that has to live with all future payment records for that grant. And I just want to make sure that's clear because I'm getting a lot of questions and requests, and I'm seeing a lot of exception requests through Reviewer Connect that I've had to decline. So anything you can do to help me spread the word on that would be great.
Good. Any questions on that before we move on here?
Dan, this is LaTanya. I'm going to assume that applies to DCAs as well?
Yes, LaTanya, it does. DCAs and grants, both. Thanks for asking.
All right, good. So I will move on then, unless there are other questions. Now, we've entered the data here into the form. We've done our allocation 50-50 across these two programs. And as Dan said, this flows through, into gifts when this grant makes it to that stage. So this is really setting the setting the stage for for which budgets this grant will come from. It can change after this point because, again, this is a scenario planning tool. So, if adjustments need to be made before it moves into Reviewer Connect, I believe, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, there's an opportunity to do so.
To make a change before it hits Reviewer Connect?
Right.
No, yeah, yes. As long as we're talking, if we're still within the pre-pipeline stage, changes can be made up until the point at which it goes to Reviewer Connect. That's correct.
Right. So I didn't want to give folks the impression that what you're doing here is carved in stone, and once you move on from the screen, you'll never be able to adjust
Right.
this.
Yes, correct.
Right. So as it's still in the pre-pipeline stage, which it will be until it is actively moved into GIFs and Reviewer Connect, this is where you can come back to this and make changes, but anytime before that. Okay. So I've added the record here, and I hit Save and Manage Payments. Now, save and manage payments for a reason, because really before you've added any payments, there really is no payment schedule of which to speak. So this grant will not show up in the dashboard until it has payment records associated with it, because again, the dashboard is looking at payment schedules. So let me I'm going to, in a new window, just open the dashboard here so that you can see what I'm talking about. Now, ultimately, this record that I've just created, Alf's new project, will be reflected here in this pre-pipeline stage. Now, it's not there yet. You'll notice I'm ordering alphabetically. You'd see Alf's new project at the top of the list. It's not there yet because I don't have any payments yet associated with this. So again, these are payment projections, so they can be changed and adjusted. This is all part of scenario planning. Anything in the pre-pipeline stage can be changed, but right now I have no payments of which to speak, so there is no projection to see in the dashboard. So if I add a new payment to this record that I've just created, there's really two fields that you will enter here. The payment date, which I'll put out sometime in November, let's say. And again, this is a $100,000 grant, so I'm just going to go ahead and make this first payment $50,000. So I enter $50,000 to be paid on, I anticipate the payment date will be November 15th of this year. And I hit save, and there's my payment. So there's one payment entered. I'll go ahead and add another one. This one will be, let's say, next year, about a year later. And that'll be the remaining $50,000 on that grant. So I add that. I see now I'm anticipating two payments of $50,000 each. Forgive me if this doesn't adhere to the grant payment schedule policies, but just for purpose of example here. Two payments, one to be made November of this year, the second one October of next year. You can see these are hitting against the 2014 fiscal year budget, and this one will be the 2015 fiscal year budget. And these are the amounts. There's some summary information that just shows you a bit about the payments up here as well. This can be helpful, particularly if you haven't scheduled payments that equal the full amount of the grant to be made. So the recommended amount is $100,000. I've scheduled two payments totaling $100,000, so my unscheduled amount is 0 here. We show you the anticipated approval date. This was entered back when you created the record itself. The next payment upcoming, and then the final payment is listed here as well. And one last thing is just a little chart, a little visual to show you each payment. So each blue bar represents a payment. So here's the first one for 50,000. Here's the second one for 50,000. And this line here shows you when each payment is made, it'll tell you how much is left to be paid on this grant. So this is telling us that after the first payment of 50,000, the balance of payments to be made still would be 50,000. After the second payment, the balance here is 0. That's not a lot of information, but if you have a lot more payments, this can be a little bit useful to see how that budget line kind of tracks downward. I just got a question that came in that said, how does what is put into the pre-pipeline affect the anticipated pending request and or gifts, if at all? So let me jump over to the dashboard and we'll see if that question can get answered by showing that there. But before we move on to that, just real quickly, any questions just on managing these payment records on this page? Is it not clear to anyone kind of what we're looking at here? This is the request record, the grant record, and here you can see all other information that was entered, the coding, here's the program areas, and what we're really concerned about is the payment schedule. But any questions on any of this? Okay, I like it when everything is clear. This is great. So let me go back to this question. How does what is put into the pre-pipeline affect the anticipated pending request and or gifts at all? So the short answer is none of this that we're looking at here that's in a pre-pipeline stage is at all related to anything in gifts. So if we jump over to our dashboard again and we're looking at payments, okay, this will be reflected in the top row. So through GivingData, you're not able to manage or edit any payment records. That is something that falls exclusively under Dolores' team in grants administration. So they're handling anything from pending, contingent, scheduled, or paid on down. The pre-pipeline area is for the program team to do their scenario planning and to start to enter the payment records here, and then they will see that reflected here. So if I look at the pre-pipeline grants, here's my grant that I entered. Now notice it's italicized, which means that it is being shared across multiple programs. We italicize just to indicate that this is being split. You can also see it here where the fund and program area allocation is shown. And we see this anticipated payment amount of $50K. Now we only see one payment because we're only looking at 2015. If we were to look at multiple years, and I'll show 2014 and 2015, we'll see, this is the 2014 column and here's 2015. If I look at the pre-pipeline payments for 2015, here's that other $50,000 payment. So they show up once in 2014 and once in 2015 because one payment is in this fiscal year and the second payment is in next year. You can see this is anticipated payment 2 of 2. And if I go back and look at 2014, this is anticipated payment 1 of 2. And you can see if it's 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, the same would apply for future fiscal years as well. So not only does this give you the ability to see how a pre-pipeline grant and the payment schedule would impact your 2014 budget, the current year's fiscal year, it's also a tool for looking at what you've got committed for future years as well. Again, if that goes forward, if that particular grant goes forward. So I just want to make sure I got that question answered fully. Again, the pre-pipeline is not going in, it has nothing to do with gifts right now. It's really exclusively existing here in the pre-pipeline stage in the dashboard. Once it moves into a pending stage, it will need to be deleted from the pre-pipeline stage, which I'll show you how to do that shortly. I don't know if Dolores is on the call or Dan, if you've got anything to add about kind of that transition from pre-pipeline to the pending stage that we want to discuss right now, or if that's an offline topic.
I don't think so, unless there are specific questions about it, Alf. I think you've explained it pretty well.
Great. Okay, good. So there's really one other thing that I'd like to show you is, when you, right now we're looking at all of the, every single fund and program area. But if I want to go and look at a specific, and let me just simplify this view a little bit. Go back to the single year view. So we're just looking at 2014. And if I want to look at my own program, so I want to see, let's just say, if you recall, I allocated 50% of that grant in the pre-pipeline stage to BMOC HCOM South. So when I'm here, if you look at that program, you'll see $25,000 in a payment. And that is because, if you recall, this is a grant that was allocated to two different program areas, half of which is coming from this program, BMOC HCOM South. So when I'm in the dashboard, and let me just back up again, so I go into the Healthy Communities program, and then I can go into the BMOC HCOM South program. Now I'm only looking at payment amounts that are specific to the budget for this program. So even though there's a $50,000 payment, the only amount that's going to hit against this program's budget is half of that, which is the $25,000. So if you're looking at it at this level, where you're in a specific program, you will only see anticipated payment amounts that reflect whatever the allocation is to that program. So since only half of the grant is coming out of this program's budget, the payment is going to only show half of the payment amount being made this year. I'm going to pause there for a second and make sure that that has sunk in, because this is a kind of a key concept for helping you, or hopefully helping you, manage budgets at your own program. If we back out, again, we see that there is a full, if we're at this level, this is looking at everything, every fund, every program. If I go in here, click into this list, I'm going to see the full $50,000 as the anticipated payment, because this list of payments includes all funds and programs. So we're going to see the 50% from prevention, and we're going to see the 50% from BMOC HCOM South. And you'll see the full 50% here. Go back, go into Healthy Communities. Here's that payment, but it's only half of what you saw on the previous screen, because we're only looking at it in the context of this specific program. So we're only going to see the amount that will count against the budget for this program. So that is why I was going to show you something, because I thought we could, thought there was a way to do this. The anticipated payment, I thought we had a field that was the total anticipated payment, but we'll need to add that in. There is a way to view the full payment amount as another column typically. We'll have to add that in. So you'd be able to see the total anticipated payment amount, which would be $50,000, versus the anticipated payment amount, which is what only relates to this program, there, the $25,000. Any questions on that? Did that fully make sense? So it's a slightly abstract concept, but it is the sort of accurate way to look at the scheduled payments. All right, I know I'm not that good at explaining these things, so if there are follow-up questions about this, please let us know. But the important takeaway here is that when you're looking at a view that's only your program, you're only going to see amounts that are coming from your budget, if there's an allocation on a grant. Okay, so let me go back to our this payment record again, and I'm going to go, now I'm in the dashboard, so remember that. We're not in the pre-pipeline area anymore. We're in the dashboard. We're looking at the pre-pipeline stage, but we're not in that area of the site down here where we can manage pre-pipeline records. So even though we're in the dashboard, the payments dashboard specifically, if I go and look at this project, and I can look at the payments when I'm looking at that project, because this page is really the same page you see when you're in the pre-pipeline. I can also manage payments from here. So once that request record is created and established and is in the pre-pipeline stage, you can see it here, see the payments here, and you can edit the payments here. So maybe I want to change this to be, $60,000 payment in the first year, and once I change that, you see it updates right away and then says, whoops, I'm $10,000 over the amount, so I need to adjust another payment to bring it into line with the grant's actual budget. So I can go edit the second one, reduce that $10,000 to $40,000, and update it. And so now I've just updated the payment records, but I wasn't even in the pre-pipeline area. I did it straight from the dashboard. So if you're already in the dashboard working and you have grants that are in there already, you can manage the payments from there. So if I want to go and manage any pre-pipeline record, I can go back to, if I want to manage the record itself, not the payments, but the record, I would go here and I'd go into my the pre-pipeline list again, and then to the request or grant record itself. And also add, you can very easily delete records. So I showed you how to edit. You just simply click the little pencil icon to edit, and you can edit the record there, or you can delete it altogether. So something's gone wrong here. There we go. Okay, so my record is gone. So that's how you delete payments, and you can do that as many times as you like. You can add them back in. Once you delete it, again, they will not show up in the dashboard. And if I want to delete the entire record itself, again, so let me go to the pre-pipeline, back to the pre-pipeline main area. So here's my grant record again, and I can delete the entire record itself. So the important concept is if you delete all the payments, it won't show up in the dashboard, but it will still be in the system. So once you're done with the grant here in the pre-pipeline stage, let's say it's moved on into the pending stage in gifts and it's in Reviewer Connect, you'll want to delete the record here. So you'll want to get rid of the whole record in addition to just the payment for that grant record. So you simply delete from here as well. And before I delete it, I'll just show you how you can edit it from here, go back to your original record, this is how I said you could, change the allocations. Maybe it's 75 from this from that program and now 25 from this one. So this allows you to change the allocations, and then that will apply proportionally to your payment records as well. And then again, to delete the record, you simply hit the trash can icon and delete it, and it's gone. Any questions on adding records, adding and managing payment records? I saw one just came in here on the chat line. Do you have to delete payments first, or does deleting a request also delete its payments? Great question. No, you do not need to delete the payments first. You can simply delete the entire grant record, and the payments will be deleted along with it. That's an important concept. So I was just showing you that you can delete the payments themselves, but simply deleting the request record will delete the payments associated with it as well. One other thing that I neglected to show you, the payment schedules. Now, there are guidelines for how the payment schedules should be entered and managed for projection purposes. And I forgot to show you that right here next to the Add Payment button, when you're looking at a request record, is a little question mark icon. And if you click on that, you'll get a little pop-up window that provides an overview of the grant payment terms. So these are the terms for how you should be scheduling payments for any particular request record. And then there's a full document that provides the details. So this is really kind of overview information. This may be enough. If you just need to be reminded, you may have committed this to memory already. But if you need the full details of it, simply click on the grant payment terms link here at the bottom. And this is a PDF file which gives you all of the specifics about the grant payment terms and any details there. And I guess if you still need more clarity, Dan, who's the person to go to beyond this document here?
They can ask me for any questions, or Greg Hall, or Dolores. It looks like a lot of information here. Looks very confusing, but it's pretty simple. I think most folks know, but September 30th is really the key date there at grants that are awarded and not necessarily executed, but awarded, meaning approved by Dr. Ross prior to September 30th, will follow the same ordinary payment terms that grants at TCE normally do, which is a 12-month grant is paid 100% up front. A 24-month grant is split over 2 payments. If it lapses, though, if that award falls into the second half of the year, meaning from October 1st on, all of this detail simply says the first payment will be split across 2 fiscal years. That first payment, if it's a 12-month grant or if it's a 24-month grant, the first payment that would ordinarily be paid up front will be split and divided between 6 months. So October 1st on, that first payment will be split across 2 fiscal years. And I think folks know primary reason for that is cash management. We have an extremely tight cash budget, and we can make exceptions to that, but that is the reason for the payment splitting policy. And Alf, I don't know if you were done covering the walkthrough, but I had a couple things I wanted to cover, but only if you're done.
I believe I am done, although there was one more question that came in. Let's suggest we answer that one first.
Yep.
It says, will the pre-pipeline project in GivingData be automatically updated once the grant or DCA is in GIFs? So no, It must be manually removed from the pre-pipeline stage once it goes into gifts. And this is where I have to say I claim a little bit of ignorance on the specific process there. I know this is something that the grants administration team is helping to manage that process. But from a technical standpoint, it must be removed manually from the pre-pipeline stage once it goes into gifts, or else it will be double counted.
Yep, Alf, and that's actually related to what I wanted to cover. So maybe if you wouldn't mind, could you go back to the payment screen, the home page, if you will, that shows where an individual might review the snapshot of how they're performing against budget. So let's just take an example. HealthyCom is a good one, or HealthyCal, either one. So from a practical standpoint, let's see, none of these have pre-pipeline dollars yet, but that's okay. Let's just say equity and diversity. We could just look at it right here or drill in either way. If I'm managing this budget, then this becomes a very important page for me to monitor. And the goal here, by the way, is to get folks from having to maintain these offline Excel spreadsheets where they're tracking all of their future and historical grant making, to really get it all into this database, this GivingData system, so that it is real time, it's as updated as possible, and not only program managers but their supervisors and finance staff and everyone really has access to see how we're all doing against budget. But if, let's say, I'm responsible for equity and diversity, this is where I would have populated my pre-pipeline information, and I'd be able to tell how I'm performing against my budget. My $718,000 budget, so far I have spent $122,000, and I have another $12,000 scheduled for a total of $134,000, meaning I've got $584 remaining between now and the rest of this fiscal year. And that is meant to cover everything that will be paid out this year, including current year grants and grants that are being scheduled payments from prior year grants. That's all the cash that will hit. So I've got a lot of room in my budget, and this is where I'd go in and enter my pre-pipeline information the way that Alf just explained. Now, the catch is, whoever just asked that question isolated really the one mechanical extra step here. We don't have a way to match the payment information in gifts back to GivingData, so there's no way to automatically remove pre-pipeline information, unfortunately. Things just change too much. There's just too much variation between pre-pipeline and what eventually shows up in gifts. So what will happen is budget managers in this example, I would need to be monitoring this periodically. And I don't know what the perfect timeline is, but probably weekly. I would go into GivingData. I would compare my pre-pipeline against items that are pending or beyond, and delete anything that is a duplicate, and just pull it out as frequently as I can just to make sure that my data is as accurate as possible. It's probably weekly. That's what feels right to me, but we just have to get through this and work with it together for a couple of months before we figure out what the right rhythm and the right cycle is here. But ultimately, we'd love for everyone to just, number one, understand their cash budgets and know where the numbers are coming from, but then secondly, get to a place where they're eliminating the Excel spreadsheets and putting everything in GivingData, and then just monitoring that and keeping it current. That will get us to the point where this is really helping all of us. So,
one other thing, Dan, just to kind of piggyback on what you just said, in terms of when you're looking at your own program and you see all these stages, you can also remove stages from your view. So as an example, if you just want to see, I only want to see grants that have been approved. So I can just remove pre-pipeline and pending from my view, and when I submit, it will update my view to only show those, and then the subtotal will reflect just what is contingent, scheduled, or paid. So it gives you some ability to slice and dice the data that you have in the various stages as well. So I just wanted to mention that because that's kind of a useful tool. I mean, you may just want to filter out pre-pipeline in some of your views or what have you, but you have different options for removing stages from your views.
Yep. And another question just came in, a couple of questions, Alf, that I might be able to help with. This is the goal that all TCE budgets will be in the pre-pipeline? I can see the value of looking up a particular organization to see where we are. That's a great point. You might be able to find multiple grants for an organization, both grants that have been awarded, but also grants that are in the pre-pipeline. Frequently that happens here, right, where we just don't, we're not aware of pre-pipeline information. All the more reason to get this updated. And the answer is yes. This will become a requirement for all budget managers to use the pre-pipeline feature and to keep it current. It's not a requirement effective immediately because this tool is new, and we do think it will take a little bit of time for folks to get used to the process. Normally we would not begin required forecasting until September anyway, but with the new system we're expecting that folks will start using it this month and either make this pre-pipeline step a requirement beginning in September, meaning September 1st, or beginning in October 1st. Probably October 1st. It just really depends on how this goes for the next few weeks. But I appreciate the question, and it's a great point. It's not just a budget tool, but with GivingData now there's information sharing going on with program staff that I think will be very helpful. And
can I just add one more thing to that? So I'm looking at the pre-pipeline grants right now. We can, you can also view an organization record, their profile, by clicking on the organization name anywhere in GivingData. So I'm not sure if this is a grantee yeah, okay, so this is a grantee. Multiple grants have been awarded, 6 awarded total here. I can view anything that's in any stage when I'm looking at the grants tab for this organization. So I can see there's 1 record in pre-pipeline, there's been 6 grants approved previously, and there was even 1 that was declined. And we can also see under the payments tab the similar information. Instead of looking at whether it's approved or not, it's actually using, this is the payment related information. So you can see any payments that are either processed or scheduled or contingent. This example just shows paid, but also anything that's pending or pre-pipeline. And then another thing, if we go back to the root level here, you can also filter by an organization name. So simply change the criteria, and just to show you what I did here, up in the top left is where the criteria for whatever you're looking at is viewable. So if I, I want to look at a particular organization, I can start typing and pick an organization here and then submit that. And this would just give me a view for this particular organization. This is not a very good example, but so this is saying, this is basically the dashboard for this 1 grantee.
Hey, Alf, I know we're running out of time, and I wanted to get one last point in before people have to leave, and that is that Diana Yang is available, and similarly to how Michelle would work one-on-one with folks to help them get their budgets updated, she's planning on doing the same thing, working as needed, hand in hand, to help get this pre-pipeline data populated. And I know she's been already helpful with Jim and Mary Kay and a few others. So please reach out to her. Please make use of her as a resource. And she's really focused on this right now to make sure this works well. And I think you'll find her a very good resource and very helpful. So with that, I would say please use the pre-pipeline. We'll offer a prize to the first budget manager to fill up their pre-pipeline. How about that? The first one to show a full pre-pipeline. Diana will come up with a prize for you. Anyway, with that, Alf, I appreciate your time. I want to just ask if there are any other last questions before we have to move on. Diana's just offering an extra $1 million allocation to your budget. I don't know if we can do that, but we'll come up with something. TCE Strive prize or something. Okay, Alf, anything else?
That's all I have. Thanks for everyone's time today.
All right, thanks. Thanks a lot. Talk to everyone soon. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.